Right now, you're doing something no other animal on Earth can do. You're watching a video, thinking about your own existence, probably half distracted by something else, and somewhere in the back of your brain, you're aware that you're aware. That little loop, thinking about thinking, feels completely normal to you. But here's what's strange. That inner life, that self-consciousness, that I exist and I'm curious about why, it almost didn't happen. Not just because humans nearly went extinct, although that's also true, but because for most of human history, we weren't alone. There were others like us, not identical, but close, disturbingly close. It's older than writing, older than farming, older than any civilization you've ever learned about in school. For hundreds of thousands of years, this planet had multiple kinds of humans living on it simultaneously. The question is, what happened to all of them? Let's go back. Way back, 300,000 years ago, Earth was not a human world. It was a world with humans, plural. Several species of the genus Homo were alive at the same time, breathing the same air, hunting the same animals, sheltering from the same storms. Not one kind of human, many kinds. In Europe and Western Asia, Neanderthals had been making tools and burying their dead for hundreds of thousands of years before we showed up. In Siberia, a population we now call the Denisovans, only identified in 2010 from a single fingerbone found in a cave, were quietly thriving across a vast stretch of Asia. On the Indonesian island of Flores, a tiny species barely a meter tall, Homo floresiensis, was hunting pygmy elephants. And in South Africa, paleoanthropologist Lee Berger found evidence in 2015 that a species called Homo Naledi was doing something that still baffles scientists, deliberately carrying their dead deep into underground cave systems, on purpose, in the dark. And somewhere in East Africa, a new species was just getting started, us. Here's the uncomfortable part. When Homo sapiens first appeared, the oldest fossils found at a site called Jebel Irhoud in Morocco, around 300,000 years ago. We were not obviously the winners. We weren't dramatically smarter. We didn't have obviously better tools. Neanderthals actually had slightly larger brains than the average modern human. And they weren't brutes. They made jewelry from eagle talons. They mixed pigments. They likely had a form of language. Archaeologists have found Neanderthal skeletons of individuals who survived serious injuries and disabilities, which means someone kept them alive. That takes empathy. That takes community. So this isn't a story about the smart ones surviving and the dumb ones dying out. The real question is, why did these capable, resilient, deeply human-like species that had survived for hundreds of thousands of years all vanish within a relatively short window? And why did we make it when they didn't? Think about that. Here's what makes this important. The answer changes how you think about being human. If we survived because we were simply superior, that's one story, the triumphant feel-good version. But if we survived by luck, by timing, by geography, or by something a lot darker, that's a completely different story, one that's harder to sit with. The truth, as best as scientists can tell, is stranger than either version. Around 70,000 years ago, something shifted for Homo sapiens. Researchers call it behavioral modernity. Suddenly, in geological terms, basically overnight, our ancestors were making complex, multi-part tools, trading objects across enormous distances, creating art for no survival reason whatsoever. The Lion Man of Hohenstein-Städel, carved from mammoth ivory in what is now Germany, is around 40,000 years old. Someone sat down and spent hours carving a creature that does not exist. A lion with a human body. That's imagination. That's myth-making. That's very, very us. Around the same time, we started leaving Africa in larger waves, and everywhere we went, the other species started disappearing. This is where it gets uncomfortable. Some of it was competition. We moved into Neanderthal territory, and we were better at one specific thing: networks. We cooperated with strangers. We traded with people we'd never met. Neanderthals appear to have lived in small, relatively isolated groups. We had the social infrastructure of a civilization before we had civilization. In a resource competition, that networking advantage was decisive. Some of it was disease. When two populations separated for hundreds of thousands of years suddenly meet, immune systems don't know what hit them. We may have carried pathogens Neanderthals had never encountered. No malice required, just biology being brutal. Some of it was climate, the planet was shifting, ecosystems were reorganizing, and species adapted to stable ice age conditions found the ground changing beneath them. But here's the part that complicates everything. Some of it was love. In 2010, geneticist Svante Pääbo and his team at the Max Planck Institute, he would go on to win the Nobel Prize in 2022 for exactly this work, sequenced the Neanderthal genome from ancient bone fragments. And they found something no one fully expected. If you are of non-African descent, between 1 and 4% of your DNA is Neanderthal. We didn't just outlast them, we absorbed them. There were children, Neanderthal and Sapiens children, who grew up, had their own children, and folded folded into the lineage that eventually became you. Denisovan DNA shows up in Melanesian and Aboriginal Australian populations, in some cases as high as 5%. The other human species didn't disappear cleanly. They dissolved into us. Homo floresiensis held out on Flores Island until around 50,000 years ago. Denisovans likely survived until 30,000 to 40,000 years ago. Neanderthals made their final stand somewhere in southern Spain, in coastal caves overlooking the Mediterranean, around 40,000 years ago. And then there was one. But why us? Of all the options, why did Homo sapiens specifically make it? Scientists still debate this. No single explanation wins, but the leading idea is almost anticlimactic in how simple it sounds. We told better stories, not metaphorically, literally. The ability to create shared myths, shared beliefs, shared identities. We are all part of this tribe. This ancestor watches over us. That river belongs to our people. Allowed Homo sapiens to coordinate in groups of thousands. No other species could do that. Neanderthals cooperated in groups of dozens. We cooperated in groups of thousands. And thousands beats dozens every time, without exception. Language didn't just let us communicate. It let us believe things together. And believing things together, even things that can't be touched or proven, turns out to be the most powerful survival tool in the history of life on Earth. So here's the full picture. 300,000 years ago, Earth had at least 5 or 6 human species alive simultaneously. Neanderthals were building fires and grieving their dead in European caves. Denisovans were crossing mountain ranges we still find brutal today. Homo floresiensis was hunting on a tropical island with stone tools. Homo Naledi was doing something spiritual in the underground dark. And Homo sapiens, nervous, social, story-obsessed, was just warming up in Africa. Then we left. We cooperated with strangers. We interbred with the ones we met. We out-networked, out-storied, and out-coordinated every other branch on the human tree. By 30,000 years ago, we were the last ones standing. And right now, as you're sitting here, doing the very human thing of being curious about your own existence, somewhere between 1 and 4% of your cells carry genetic code from a Neanderthal who died 40,000 years ago, a person who never knew we'd still be here, who couldn't have imagined that their story would end up folded inside ours. You're not a pure, clean Homo sapiens. You're the last chapter of a story that had many, many characters. We didn't survive because we were the best version of human. We survived because we were the most connected, the most willing to believe in things together, the most obsessed with each other, which honestly explains a lot about the internet. If questions like this are your thing, the strange, the ancient, and the stuff that makes you feel weird about being human, you're in the right place. There's plenty more where this came from.